before you say a single word, before you shake a hand, before you even look up. The person across the room has already formed a judgment about your competence, your trustworthiness, and your social status. Princeton University researchers measured how long that takes. 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second, faster than a blink. Today, I want to show you exactly what information people are reading from you in that window, because most of it has nothing to do with what you think it does. Here is the thing nobody tells you about first impressions. They're not about the impression you're trying to make. They're about the signal your body is broadcasting involuntarily, a signal built by hundreds of thousands of years of evolutionary social processing, that the people around you are reading with a part of their brain they have no conscious control over. Your conscious mind thinks in words. Your social brain thinks in signals. And the social brain is older, faster, and far more influential on judgment than any deliberate communication you have ever produced. There are 7 specific channels through which people read you before you speak. Each one has been studied independently in controlled research settings. Each one will change something about how you understand every social interaction you have ever been in. Finding number 1. The first impression forms before your conscious mind has processed the face. In 2006, psychologists Janine Willis and Alexander Todorov at Princeton University ran a series of experiments asking participants to rate faces for trustworthiness, competence, likability, aggressiveness, and attractiveness. Some participants were given unlimited time. Others were given only 100 milliseconds, 1/10 of a second. The judgments made in 100 milliseconds correlated strongly with the judgments made with unlimited time. The additional time did not substantially change the conclusion. It mostly just increased the confidence with which people held the judgment they had already formed. What this means is that the first impression is not revised by more information. It is confirmed by it. The brain commits to the initial read and then selectively processes subsequent information through that lens. This is called confirmation bias operating at the social perception level. Once someone has placed you in a social category, trustworthy, competent, dominant, approachable, they process everything you do next through that frame. The implication is significant. The first 100 milliseconds of any encounter are not a preamble to the real interaction. They are the most consequential moment of the entire interaction. Everything after is interpretation of a conclusion already reached. Your walking pace broadcasts your internal emotional and psychological state with measurable accuracy. Research from the Max Planck Institute for Empirical Aesthetics found that observers watching point light displays, moving dots showing only the joints of a walking figure, with all physical features removed, could accurately identify the emotional state of the walker significantly above chance. Not just broadly, they identified specific states: confidence, anxiety, sadness, determination, aggression, from nothing but the timing, rhythm, and coordination of the movement. Walking pace specifically has been studied as a signal of social dominance and psychological confidence across multiple cultures. People who walk slightly faster than the ambient pace of a space are consistently rated as higher status, more purposeful, and more competent. People who walk noticeably slower are rated as either highly dominant, if their posture is expansive, or low status and uncertain, if their posture is contracted. The critical variable is not speed alone. It is the combination of pace, posture, and deliberateness. A person who moves through a space as if the space belongs to them, not rushed, not hesitant, with a natural rhythm that does not apologize for its presence, communicates psychological ownership of the environment before any conversation begins. And the people in that environment register it immediately, not consciously, as a felt sense of who is worth paying attention to. Your voice communicates social information that is entirely independent of the words you use. Researchers at the University of California found that people listening to recordings of strangers speaking a language they did not understand could identify the social status of the speaker significantly above chance, based on tonality alone. No words understood, no content processed, just the acoustic properties of the voice itself. Lower fundamental frequency, a deeper voice, is consistently associated across cultures with higher dominance and physical capability. But the more nuanced finding is about vocal variation and what it signals about psychological state. Monotone speech signals disengagement or contempt, both socially repelling. High vocal variation without a stable lower register signals anxiety and social uncertainty. The voice that is most consistently rated as trustworthy and competent has a moderate fundamental frequency, deliberate pacing with natural pauses, and variation that is controlled rather than reactive, rising for emphasis, falling for conclusion, never trailing upward at the end of statements. The upward inflection at the end of declarative statements, the pattern called upspeak, is one of the clearest acoustic signals of social uncertainty the human voice can produce. It frames statements as questions. It requests permission from the listener to hold the opinion being expressed. And listeners register it as low confidence even when they cannot consciously identify what they are responding to. Eye contact duration sends two completely opposite social signals, depending on context. And most people get the calibration wrong in one direction or the other. Research from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology found that the optimal eye contact duration for creating a sense of connection and trustworthiness during conversation is approximately 3.3 seconds of direct gaze before a natural break. Below this threshold, reduced eye contact is registered as dishonesty, disinterest, or social anxiety, depending on the other signals present. Above this threshold, sustained unbroken eye contact shifts from connection to evaluation and triggers a mild threat response in the person being gazed at. The reason is evolutionary. In primate social hierarchies, sustained unbroken eye contact is a dominance display, a challenge, or an assertion of control. The human brain retains this processing even in modern social contexts. Staring holds a primitive meaning that bypasses all cultural overlay. The practical implication is that eye contact is not a binary of more or less. It is a rhythm, engagement, natural break, re-engagement, that signals confident social presence without triggering the threat circuit. People who have been told to make more eye contact and overcorrect make every person they speak with slightly uncomfortable without either party understanding exactly why. What you wear communicates group membership and competence before any interaction begins, and the processing happens faster than any verbal exchange could occur. Research published in the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that people shown photographs of identical individuals wearing clothes of different price points rated the higher-priced clothing subjects as significantly more competent in under 1 second, even when the clothing difference was subtle enough that participants could not consciously identify what they had detected. Clothing functions as a signal of in-group membership, indicating which social tribe, which status tier, which set of values a person belongs to, and this membership assessment happens automatically as part of the initial social categorization process that produces the first impression. The more significant finding is about congruence. It is not the most expensive clothing that reads as highest status in all contexts. It is the clothing that most precisely signals belonging in the specific context the person is occupying. Overdressing for an environment signals status anxiety as clearly as underdressing does. The signal that produces the highest competence and trustworthiness ratings is contextual precision, wearing exactly what the most capable person in that specific environment would wear. The brain reads that precision as evidence of social intelligence, not as evidence of wealth. Microexpressions last 1/25 th of a second and override every conscious display you produce. Psychologist Paul Ekman at the University of California, San Francisco, spent decades studying facial expressions across cultures and identified a set of universal microexpressions, involuntary, rapid facial movements lasting between 40 and 500 milliseconds, that reflect genuine emotional states regardless of what the person is consciously attempting to display. These microexpressions cannot be suppressed voluntarily. They originate in subcortical brain regions that activate before the prefrontal cortex. The conscious, deliberate part of the brain can modulate them. By the time you have decided to look calm, the microexpression of anxiety has already crossed your face. What makes this significant for social reading is that the people around you are processing these microexpressions unconsciously. They do not see a 40-millisecond flash of fear on your face and consciously register it. They just feel slightly less safe around you than they can explain. They feel a mild disconnection between what you are expressing and what you are actually experiencing. And they register that disconnection as a form of unease, often described as something feels slightly off about that person, without ever being able to name what they detected. The only way to align the micro-expression with the conscious expression is not better performance. It is genuine alignment of the internal state with the external context. The face that reads as most trustworthy is the face where there is nothing underneath that contradicts what is on the surface. Finding number 7. The physical space you occupy communicates your social status more accurately than anything you say about yourself. Research from Columbia Business School by Dana Carney and colleagues studied the relationship between postural expansion, the degree to which a person's body expands into the available space, and social status perception across a range of cultural contexts. People who occupy more physical space, broader stance, arms away from the body, head held level, movement that does not contract to accommodate the presence of others, are consistently rated as higher status, more capable, and more appropriate for leadership roles by observers who have no other information about them. People who contract their physical presence, crossing arms, pulling shoulders inward, keeping legs close together in seated positions, reducing their footprint in the space, are rated as lower status, less competent, and less trustworthy regardless of what they say or how they say it. The reason is again evolutionary. High-status animals in every social species occupy more physical space. The human social brain reads this signal before language enters the processing chain. The practical implication is precise. You do not need to be physically large. You need to fill the space you have without apologizing for your presence in it. The person who pulls their chair closer to the table rather than angling slightly away, who places both hands on the table surface rather than in their lap, who sits back rather than hunching forward, is communicating status information that no resume, no title, and no amount of verbal explanation can override. So here is what is actually happening when someone forms a judgment about you before you speak. In the first 100 milliseconds, their brain categorizes your trustworthiness and competence from your face alone and commits to that judgment with high confidence. Your walking pace broadcasts your psychological state and social confidence through movement patterns that are read below the level of conscious awareness. Your voice communicates dominance and trustworthiness through acoustic properties entirely independent of your words. Your eye contact duration either creates connection or triggers a threat response, depending on calibration. Your clothing signals group membership and social intelligence before any exchange has occurred. Your micro-expressions contradict or confirm every conscious display you produce. And people feel the contradiction even when they cannot name it. And the space you occupy in any environment is communicating your status to every person in it, continuously and automatically. None of this is about performance. All of it is about alignment. The person who reads as most capable, most trustworthy, and most worth paying attention to is not the person performing those qualities most convincingly. It is the person whose internal state, physical presence, and genuine intention are all pointing in the same direction. The signal that reads as high status is not the loudest one. It is the most consistent one. If one of these 7 findings change something about how you see a social situation you have been in, leave its number in the comments. And subscribe, because every week on this channel, the science explains what most people are living through without the language to understand it.